Hello students, today we're going to talk about copyright, what it is, and why it matters. So I want you to think about the movies. Before every movie, what do you see? You see that FBI anti-piracy warning. And it's serious because you can get in a lot of trouble for violating copyright, not only for movies, but also for copying things off the internet, copying things out of books, copying and pasting off of websites. So we're going to talk about copyright today. So there's quite a few terms you have to know about copyright. The first one is copyright, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. Infringement and violation, those are synonyms, and infringement means to break the rules or terms of the law, and violation is a synonym, so it means the same thing. Education, y'all are in an educational setting, it means having to do with school. Fair use, we'll talk about that later. Public domain, royalty-free, publisher, publication, and to publish. Those all are the same base word and have different suffixes to change their meaning slightly, but they all mean to make public. The publisher is the one who makes it public, and the publication is the actual physical, whatever material it might be used. And then Creative Commons, which we'll talk more about later. So the purpose of copyright is to protect the financial interests of creators, producers, and distributors of original works of information and art. And that's in Smaldino textbook on page 16. And so basically, the simplest form is copyright are legal rights. And think about your report card. You want to get rewarded for your hard work by getting A's on your report card. I know some of y'all even get rewarded by your parents paying you for A's on a report card. Well, if you didn't get anything or didn't feel that success of your hard work paying off in school, you might not work as hard. And I think that's how copyright works. If your work is just being shared with anybody, you're not going to make any money, so you're not going to want to create, and then everybody loses. And so we want to promote authors to continue to write. We want to promote singers to continue to sing and write music, and artists to draw. And so we want everyone to continue being creative. This is also from the Smaldino textbook, and it really made me stop and think. All material on the internet is copyrighted unless stated otherwise. It is copyrighted even if it does not display the copyright symbol. And we're so used to finding everything we need on the internet, but oftentimes we don't think who's behind that. Is it copyrighted? But it all is, and we need to give credit where credit is due. So copyright really tightened up in 1976 with the Copyright Act of 1976. And after that point, after this law, you could be jailed or you could receive fines for infringement or violations. Those are synonyms for copyright. So a fine could be anywhere from $750 to $30,000. If you purposefully, it's called willful intent. It means you purposely, you know you're going to break the law and you do it anyway, and you're found guilty of that, you could be charged up to $150,000. And there's even bigger fines, $250,000 or 5 years in prison if you are making money off of it. If you copy a movie and then you start selling it to your friends, you could go to 5 years in prison or pay a really hefty fine. So in short, copyright violating it is a big deal. As students, there is something called fair use. Copyright exceptions for students in school. However, this is when you're in school, not when you're outside of school. So kind of the guidelines for fair use is you have to be using whatever material for educational purpose in an educational community. So this means you can't be taking a Marvel movie and uploading it to YouTube, or taking parts of Marvel movies to change. Fair use is all about educational and purpose and in the education community. The purpose of what you're using it for has to be education in nature. The third guideline is a minimal amount. Like, think about how much of the copyrighted work is being used. About the smaller part, the better. And then 4, your fair use is for no intent to replace the original. Like, does it hurt sales or will it hurt sales? And so the biggest kind of takeaway about fair use are small portions are key in fair use copyright. So if you need to use a copyrighted material for whatever reason, when in doubt, ask. You would contact the publisher or distributor rather than the author or the creator, but really you would contact me and let me help you, let your teacher help you. I just listened to an audiobook, and at the end of it, it asked the listener to please respect the author's rights. And it gave a definition of copyrights and who to contact if you wanted to use any portion of it. Length of copyright. Copyright can run out, but the general rules for copyright length is 70 years after the author's death. A little bit longer if it was like a work for hire or commission, somebody paid you to write a song, it gets to be a little bit longer. And you can renew your copyright prior to 78, excuse me. But copyright can run out, and then oftentimes it becomes a work of public domain. So the copyright has ran out, and several books specifically have become public domain. Like James Austen, Pride and Prejudice is considered public domain. Anybody can use it. The copyright has been run out. And it was published a long time ago in 1813, so that copyright has not been renewed. Another term you need to know in terms of copyright is Creative Commons. Creative Commons can help people know how to license their work. It can be a source for locating materials to use if you want to use something that you're not going to have to pay money for or give a payout to the publisher. It also allows a way for creators to share with others and then potentially for the others to build on that work. Royalty-free. This is a big deal when you're building presentations with sounds and you want music and you really want to use the most popular song on the radio, but oftentimes you would have to contact the publisher and you probably want to use a bigger portion of the song, and so you can't do that. That's against copyright laws. So you would find music that was royalty-free. It could be images, sounds, music that you don't have to pay money to use. And I thought it was really interesting that Merriam-Webster defined royalty as a payment to an author or composer for each copy of a work sold, or to an inventor for each item sold under a patent. And so basically, you have to pay the person who creates it. They make money off each sale, or even if a song's on a radio and you hear it, the more that song gets played, the more the songwriter gets paid. So here are the big no-nos of copyright. Converting copyrighted materials from one format to another. So my mom has all her old VHSs still in the closet at her house, but it would be against copyright if she started putting those ancient VHSs onto a DVD. That would be a big no-no. So right now they're going to continue doing what they're doing. They're going to continue to collect dust. Using music that you don't have permission to use, you cutting and pasting information from a website without properly citing it. So that's going to be something we're really going to be practicing on how to cite things correctly. File sharing can be a violation of copyright. Also passing on emails that you don't have permission to pass on because it violates the original person's intent and also their privacy. And then changing materials is a copyright infringement. So if you take something and change it, like I'm just going to tweak it a little bit, nobody will notice, that is a copyright infringement as well. So one of the things y'all use all the time at school is Google Slides. So a quick way to teach you how to check copyright on a Google Slide image is you would go to Insert, you would go to Image and search the web, You type in what you need it to search for. In this case, I just search cats. On each slide, there's this little microscope magnifying glass that you click on, and it brings it up, and it tells you at the bottom, it says image is labeled for commercial use with modification. Only select images that you have the license to use, and you can click learn more. And it will tell you exactly, how you can use this. And it says that stock images are available for personal or commercial use only. And so that's how to check if you can use that in websites. Then the other way you can check, once again, sticking with the theme of cat, I looked at this Wikipedia article on cats, and it says text is available under the Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike License 3.0. And so I can use this because it's under that umbrella of Creative Commons license. But of course I would want to cite either one. Some websites have an automatic cite button, like here in Britannica, and you would click on that to help you cite it. But the biggest thing you can do is ask your librarian and teacher for help if you're unsure in how to cite things correctly. And another takeaway is in an educational setting, using a small amount of copyright work is usually considered fair use, but when in doubt, ask. So now it's going to be your turn to show what you know, and just so I can show you what I know, these are some of the references I used. The Creative Commons website, the dictionary, and then the textbook that I've been learning out of. So I hope y'all learned a lot about copyright.